Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me today is my good friend, Alex Spears. Alex, what's up?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's get it going.
Let me start out with some gratitude before we dive into what happened last night. Thank you to everybody that came to the Mule. I was completely overwhelmed in like the positive way, and also like the negative way too. But I was very overwhelmed with the amount of people that came and with the amount of people that came to talk to me and had kind words to say, and it blew me away. So we did it at the Mule in downtown Edmond. Frenzy Brewing opened up their tap room as overflow to us too, and we completely filled each venue like to the brim. So that's a huge thing for downtown Edmond on a random Tuesday. So I'm really grateful that we're able to do that. And the energy in the building at the time of the lottery drawing was so insane. I guarantee that like one of the chandeliers was going to get pulled down if the Thunder got at least one pick in like the top 4, or if they happened to draw 5. It was an unbelievable atmosphere. I'll never forget it. I'm sure if you were there, you'll never forget it either, because like the energy was just almost too much. It was just for even like the 14th pick being drawn out, people were just going nuts. Because if it stayed, like everybody knew if it kind of stayed chalk throughout, that the better the chance the Thunder had of moving up. And then like the ultimate like horrible thing, they get drawn at 6, and then like the air is let out of the balloon, and then there's still like the hope of 5, and then 5 gets drawn, and it's not us. And it was just like it was such a bummer. It was like the range of emotions was crazy, and I'm sure everybody felt that no matter where you were. But like just the energy of being around people again too, like being around like a group of people again, just that kind of energy was really something I'm really grateful for, something that I don't take for granted. So just a shout out to everybody that decided to come. We will have a draft party as well. I think there is a lot of mystery as to what the Thunder are going to do on draft night, who they select at 6, if they trade up, if they trade back, who knows? I mean, there's just a lot of things that could happen that night. So be on the lookout for details about that soon, because I anticipate trying to get together with everybody again. So it should be fun. So Al, the Thunder sit at 6 in what appears to be like a 4 or 5 player draft. It's not where you want to be after tanking for half a season. The Thunder put themselves in a pretty good position prior to the draft lottery, and things just didn't bounce their way, which is a part of this. Like this, and we talked about it a lot when we do those tankathon spins and things land like this. You're like, this is a hard look at reality. Like, I don't know how many times I said that when it hit there, but that hard look at reality is here.
Yeah. First off, let's rent out the peak for the draft party.
Dude,
we need a bigger place.
We need a much bigger place. I know a lot of people. I had friends even that text me like, "Hey, I stopped by and left because I couldn't get food, I couldn't get a table, I couldn't get anything."
Yeah.
So like, I'm aware of like the number of people that like were there and stayed, but I don't know how many people left. Yeah, it's certainly not peak level, but like we need a bigger place. And
we're on the field. What if we got a field party?
Field party. I do have a projector and a projector screen.
Oh yeah, and we'll just get a bunch of 30 packs of stones, take them out to the field. So I was pretty miserable last night.
Yeah,
and remained relatively miserable. And I think part of it is that if they had the exact same record, right, but their season was more like the Detroit Pistons, where
Yeah.
It's kind of like the same thing the entire year. Like there weren't two sides to the Pistons season. They were basically the same team the whole year. They were consistent, they were competitive, but they were bad. And if it was that case, but they were also in this scenario, they win the same amount of games that the Thunder did. I don't think I would have felt as bad. I think what made it sting is that we watched some of the worst basketball arguably ever played in the NBA. I mean, you could make the case based on the offensive rating numbers that we watched some of the worst basketball you'll ever see. The Pacers had the biggest road win in NBA history, 57 points during that stretch. And so by the end of the season, you're like, okay, we did it. Like we went through something nasty right there.
We did.
And we are about to be rewarded. Of course, we ignored, even though we kind of know it's there, that there was this whole first section of the season. And it turns out that's the section that screws us because we end up, winning the amount of games that we win. And I don't even blame, that last game against the Clippers is going to be the thing we remember about this season.
Sure.
But it was really the beginning of the season where we just got too far behind the ball and we were never really able to catch up despite some insane tanking. So that was the part that ultimately bothers you because you feel like, well, we put in the work, but the reality is we put in the work for like half a year.
They tanked half a season. Yeah. I mean, this was not the 76ers process tanking. I mean, it just wasn't.
It wasn't.
And honestly, like they didn't have like with the kind of players they had on the team. And that's where you have to really take a look ahead and figure out, like, is it even possible with the roster they have to get there? Like to actually tank again? Like with this roster, I think the answer is no. I don't think that they can be the second or first worst team in the league. Like I just don't think they can. I don't think they don't have that in them. They have too many competitive guys. They have too many good players at this point. If you add let's say the most likely outcome on draft night is that they just add Scottie Barnes or somebody in that range. If you add Scottie Barnes to this team, like Scottie Barnes is going to come in and he's going to bring an energy and a fervor to the defense and to everything. And he's a really good passer. Like he's going to bring something to the team that's going to invoke some life that will not allow them to even that will allow them to take a step forward and not a step back, in my opinion. And so, like, I don't think this team has it in them. And so now the question is, how committed is Sam Presti and his staff to multiple lottery pick drafting? Like, how committed are they? And sure, there are going to be lots of people like, well, we have the Clippers picks and we have the Rockets picks and we have stop that. That was not the plan. That was the icing on the cake. The Thunder's picks are the ones that are more controllable than anything. And the question is, are they going to control them? Hank, are they going to control the picks? That is my question.
That is the question, because the half glass empty take on all of this is that, assuming health, have the Thunder already reached the mediocre stage? Like, are we already there? Have we already built a roster that's basically their floor is like 28 to 29 wins every single year, upside of like 38,
Possibly.
Are we the Kings? I don't think we're the Kings, because obviously the Kings have the added thing of like having a terrible organization.
Yeah, so bad culture, bad ownership. Yes, the Thunder don't have that, but it does bear the question: like, are you what does this team have the ceiling of the 4 seed and second round? Perhaps like if you get lucky, like the Hawks did, and you get to the conference finals one year, and it's like, oh my gosh, like that's it, and like that could be it. Or are they going to go for a team that has the ceiling of a title? And I just can't stop thinking that the actual outcome here will be that they will opt to put together a team that has the ceiling of a title. And so that could mean a lot of things. It doesn't mean necessarily that they are going to trade SGA at the draft. It also doesn't mean that. It also absolutely does not mean that they will consider that, because the easiest way to reset the timeline is to trade SGA and get. And I don't know who would want him. I don't know who would want him that's in the top 5. I don't think you trade him for 4. I don't even know if you trade him for 3. But and I also don't know who the Thunder love in the top 5. It's probably Cade. I don't think the Pistons are going to do Cade for SGA. I don't think that's happening. I don't think that makes sense for them. You want him on a rookie scale deal. You don't want to pay SGA immediately. They have no rush because their guys are young too. So like you can throw that one out. Obviously, like the Toronto Raptors would absolutely be just ecstatic to get Shea. One, he's a Canadian. The fan base already loves him in Toronto. Like they're already obsessed with him there. And I think that they would flip out. Now, I don't know that you do it for that pick, but
No.
I think you just have to start thinking about though, like what is the pathway? What is the avenue? And perhaps there will be a trip. Maybe the Thunder could trade for 3, and 3 is the guy that they at 3 is the guy they love. Jalen Suggs, Evan Mobley, whoever it is that's left there. Maybe that's the guy that they love. Jalen Green. I don't know who it is. I have no clue. But maybe that's the guy. And they're like, no, we have an avenue to get him anyways. We're going to have to give up. They have the ability to overwhelm Cleveland with an offer. And then that's how you do it. But I don't know. I mean, to me, this is where we get to see how committed the Thunder are to this plan. And, the only good thing is that they have the ammo to get there. The bad thing is that you may have to expend a lot of it to make it happen.
Yeah, I don't think they trade Shea for anything less than the number 1 pick, and I don't think that's going to happen. And so, of those 2 scenarios, I do think the trade up, if it's there, is the most likely scenario of those 2. But I ultimately think that they probably just draft someone at 6. Because people are talking about the Cavs being like aggressive in wanting to trade the number 3 pick, but it's like, what would they possibly want from the Thunder for the 3rd pick? They have guards, whether we think they're good or not. They have guards. They have the opportunity to take another guard, likely at 3, whether it's Jalen Green or Jalen Suggs, or they could take Kuminga, or they could take Scottie Barnes. So it would seem like they would be looking for either another wing with Okoro or a big man. I mean, we assume that they're going to pay Jarrett Allen, but who knows?
I know. They're such a confounding team because you can plug in a young player into every slot, right?
Yeah, and they're not. No one on that team is good enough where you shouldn't consider best player available.
Yes, if I'm them, I just take the guy at 3.
That's what I think too.
But just stop trying to outsmart yourself.
But they were the first name that they were the first name that came up as like, oh, maybe they would be willing to trade the pick. But in that scenario, they're trading it to get better. So it's not like the Thunder overwhelming them with picks is like really what they're looking for in that scenario. They're doing it ostensibly to get better this very next season. For whatever reason.
Well, and we've known Cleveland to be wacky in the draft before. They took Anthony Bennett, with the same ownership group that's still in place there now. So, like, we don't know. We just don't know what their thought process is. We don't know what their evaluations are. I mean, you look at, and this is just kind of a picture. Like, everybody has the top 4 and 5 guys as the same guys across the board, and that's like Sam Vecini, it's the guys at ESPN, it's everybody. But like John Hollinger put out a piece this week where it's like, no, like not even close. It's Cade Cunningham. And then it's just like, it's just this mixed bag of like, okay, like what is this evaluation here? He has Mobley 2nd, Scottie Barnes 3rd. We don't know what Cleveland's draft board looks like. We don't know what the Thunder's draft board looks like. We don't know what any of these other teams' draft boards look like. I'll tell you, they're probably not chalk.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I was listening to Chad Ford's like post lottery reaction pod.
NBA Big Board.
And he has Scottie Barnes at 4th on his big board. And he said he was talking to a team who has him at 3rd on their big board.
Yes. So we just don't know. And also, and this is like, if you're really digging deep and trying to find glass half full things deep within inside of you. And this is not, it's not that it's untrue. It's just that it's like you're trying, like you're manufacturing sunshine at this point. But the truth is that the top 4 guys that are in everybody's mock drafts, 2 or more are not going to be very good or are not going to work out. And then somebody in the 5 to 10 range is going to be an all-star and is going to be a great player. Now the trouble is the odds of selecting that guy are just so much smaller, and the odds of that person being like an all-NBA type of player is so much smaller once you get outside there. It's not impossible. Like, this is where the hard work is done. This is where the real analysis is done. I mean, you could argue that, like, really, Russell Westbrook probably should have been picked 6th through 8th in the draft. The Thunder took him 4. You know, you could, but also, like, I don't know. You just don't. There's just so much mystery and so much. There's not an exact science around the draft. And even if we think we know, because you can easily, to me, you can watch Kuminga and you can watch Evan Mobley, and like I can absolutely see a world where both of those guys are not star players. Like, I can see a world where Jonathan Kuminga is not in the league in 5 years. Mobley, I can see him being in the league, but like just being like a pretty good guy, like a pretty good player, super skilled, but not a star player. I have a harder time seeing Cade not being a great player. I have a harder time seeing Jalen Suggs not being a great player. And then I see like Jalen Green in the middle, where I could see him just like being some like a inefficient gunner or like a great scorer. So there's like, to me, there's only like 2 slam dunks in this draft. And it's Suggs and it's
and Alperen
Cunningham.
Sengun.
Sengun, yeah.
Sengun.
Yeah. Is he 4th on Hollinger's list?
Yeah, he was.
And so I did a podcast last night with Sam Vecini, and there'll be a video, and the podcast is already out. I released it last night. You can only find it on the Athletic app, or you can find it on the Athletic Podcast Plus, which it'll show up in the Athletic NBA show feed. And so I did ask Sam, who's like the highest upside player outside of the top 5 guys, and he said Sengun is probably that guy. Like the highest upside swing. So I don't know, man. I just don't know.
And the other thing that we haven't mentioned yet is, one of the things we talked about this entire season is it seems like Presti is targeting different players than he would have targeted in the past, perhaps. Mm-hmm. With that last draft with Teo and Poku. Maybe those, on the one hand, Poku's falls into the slot of like the big swing, but he's not exactly like the super athletic, rangy defender that we typically think of. And so, like, I'm looking at the Ringers mock draft after last night, and they have the Thunder taking Keon Johnson, which, like, 4 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like, that is a Thunder guy, like, absolutely. Dude. But now I'm like, I almost feel like they're working with old information, because that doesn't feel like a current Thunder guy.
I need to pull the Ringers up.
I mean,
that's bad. I would be. If they took Barnes, I would not be disappointed on draft if they just stay at 6. If that's what they do, I'm not disappointed at all.
And let's be honest, the reason why you're not disappointed about Barnes, because he absolutely is that profile, is that he does have the passing ability, and that is something that definitely fits in with this current iteration of the Thunder.
Yes. He's kind of like old age Thunder meets new age Thunder, because he's a great defender, insane length, 6'9", 7'3" wingspan. But then, like, he's skilled. He can handle. I mean, he was like the ball handler off the bench for Florida State. Like, he's handling the ball at the top of the key on almost every offensive possession that he has it. And he's finding guys, and he's getting to the bucket. And he doesn't have exactly a plan every time he tries to score, but he did score some. And he has a ton of development to do as a scorer, just an absolute ton. But man, if they took Keon Johnson, I would lose it. It would be Terrence Ferguson level losing it for me. because Keon is like, he's a wild man. He's a 6'5", should be kind of like a wing, but can score. Like even they have like shades of Latrell Sprewell, KCP, Gary Harris. Like, get out of here with that. Get out of here with those comps. Like, Keon Johnson can't shoot the ball, and he's just a wild man with the ball, and he's a rangy defender. He likes to dunk on guys. Like, he's fun. But if that's your guy at 6, like, you've screwed up. You have absolutely screwed up.
Yeah, that's and that's why, like, what did we just see this past season? We saw a Thunder team that took more threes than they've ever taken before. And so even with Scottie Barnes, like, the idea that they're not going to prioritize shooting in this draft, I question that. And I look at someone like Scottie Barnes, and everyone's making the Draymond comps, but I'm looking at this most recent playoff series and like, aren't those the same skills that Ben Simmons has? Like, this guy can't hit free throws either. He's like 62% from the line. He's a really good defender. He's a great passer, but he like cannot shoot.
Yeah.
And like,
the skill set is not dissimilar.
And we've seen what happens in the playoffs with those types of guys sometimes. Yeah. And I don't know. I just like, why isn't Moses Moody considered as high of a prospect as Scottie Barnes?
It's a great question. I have not dug in and watched a ton of him, so I don't know the answer to that yet myself.
Because you talk about wingspan after the combine measurements. Moses Moody is the most positive wingspan guy in this class.
Yeah,
it was like insane. It was like plus 8 inches.
You know, what's crazy is that Moody, Barnes, and Cade Cunningham were all on the same high school team.
They must have been pretty good. Were they pretty good?
Sam Vecini said it was the best high school team he's ever watched. He said they were insane. But like, I would not be surprised if Sengun was the Thunder's guy at 6. Like, I would not be shocked by that. I wouldn't be shocked if Josh Giddey is like a total new age Thunder player. He's 6'8". He's got long arms. He can do it all. Now the shooting is a question with him too, but he's 18. Like, he's very, very young. And so is Sengun. Sengun's 18 as well. Like, those two guys, one, the Thunder haven't selected a college player in forever. And they think it's an advantage. True. they think it's an advantage to take somebody that either didn't go to college or was from overseas or something like that. The last player that they took that went to college was Domantas Sabonis. That was the last one.
Meaning in the first round?
I think, period, right?
Oh, right, because Dort was undrafted.
Yeah. Period. They haven't taken a guy since 2016? 2016 that played in college. So that doesn't mean, obviously, that they are like, oh, we're staying away from Scottie Barnes because we're like world elitists here and we want to have our guys world traveled. Like, no, like, that's not it. But I wouldn't overlook that, because I promise you the Thunder are doing their homework on every single person, and especially these international prospects. Like, they're going to know them better than anybody, and they'll know if they're worth taking. Earlier, they'll know it. And I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see. McKelly and I just did Thunder After Darks on the OKC Dream Team page. We have completed Cade, Mobley, Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, Kuminga. We did Keon Johnson. We did Scottie Barnes, Jalen Johnson, and Josh Giddey. So we've completed all of those.
What do you think of Jalen Johnson?
I think he super sucks.
Oh no, why?
I just don't see the path to him being like a great player. He could be like poor man's Harrison Barnes or something.
I mean, because he's not really a college guy. He only played 13 games,
That's true. Maybe a little bit better passer. I didn't like him. I don't like him as a player. I don't like his shot. I don't like him. And I don't like all the attitude stuff that's kind of traveled with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's not my guy, for sure. Which he would be a Terrence Ferguson level disappointment as well for me. Well, I can be absolutely wrong. I could be 100% wrong on him because he was a 5-star recruit, but you can just see in him like he probably just trucked guys in high school, like just embarrassed guys in high school because he's so much bigger and stronger and faster than everybody. And then at college, he was like just okay, and the sample size is very small, so maybe that's part of it. But I was not impressed.
Well, thinking ahead, I feel like when it comes to the draft with the Thunder, we either absolutely know who they're taking because there's been a rumored promise, or they end up taking someone that we weren't even considering. So,
yeah.
First things first, Chad Ford mentioned on his podcast that he thinks the Thunder they are rumored to be a team that has promised Isaiah Jackson in like with either 16 or 18.
With 16 or 18.
Yeah. And he's like a 6'9", like energy big, tries to block literally every shot.
Yeah.
Every shot. He's going to foul out because of pump fakes. He's going to jump every single time. But he's very athletic. You know, if that's the case, that would be more like old school Thunder thinking. But we haven't heard anything about the top 6, obviously, and it's hard to make a promise when you're at 6 in what some people are saying is a 6-person draft.
Why would you make a promise now?
I don't. They've done it before. I mean, the reason why they know he got a promise is because he backed out of the combine, and then there were rumors that he got a promise. And then what team makes promises? The Thunder. Like I'm not saying this is like locked in stone.
Yeah, they're not the only people that make promises. But,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they're picking an 18, perhaps they do take him.
But my whole point is that every single mock right now, other than the Ringer, has Scottie Barnes going to the Thunder. And I just I refuse to believe that like the most obvious choice is really going to end up there. And then you hear about people like John Hollinger or Chad Ford saying, oh, there are teams that have him ranked even higher. Like, I don't even know if he's going to be there at 6. And I just have a feeling it's going to be someone that is not in that consensus top 6.
Yeah.
I can even see a scenario where Kuminga falls to them and they don't take him.
They don't take him. Absolutely. Absolutely. I can see that. Yeah. I think there's no doubt. There's also like we predicted very accurately what the Thunder were doing last year in the draft. You know?
Which draft was that? Oh, we did. Yeah. Poku. Yeah. We got that.
Yeah, quite accurately. And then even in the second round, like we had Teo. Like I had Teo. Like that's who I had. Those were the 2 guys that I had that I thought the Thunder would take. So
you're saying you have your finger on the pulse, Andrew?
No, I don't. But I just got lucky, I think. But maybe we do have a better feel for what they're doing. And Kuminga's very old school Thunder, right? Like very, very old school Thunder. I don't know that he fits that today. I think Barnes fits that better. I think that Giddey fits that better. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see them take Giddey at 6. I think that if they think that he's the best player available, they'll take him.
And I mean, this is so interesting because it felt last year, you know, with all these guys who are fighting for their NBA lives, the Thunder were almost as interested as in developing a system as they were in developing individual players. Something that we hadn't necessarily seen before for the Thunder. Like they were really trying to develop this system with Mark Daignault. And so BPA for them might be the best player available that fits within that system that they're trying to build. And they're not necessarily just going to take the biggest swing because, oh, maybe this guy has the highest ceiling in a traditional setting. I mean, they might be going for the guy who has the highest ceiling in their system, which might be someone we're not talking about.
And it might be one and the same.
It could be.
You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily mean. But like, yeah, Kuminga, I would want them to take him, certainly, because the Thunder are obsessed with development. And Kuminga is not necessarily like only old school Thunder because he can handle and he can pass it a little bit too. So he's not just like this he's just a weird kind of raw player where he's got tons of skills, and a lot of it's basketball IQ. It's like some of the biggest problems with him, which does fit old school Thunder. Like there's so many like bad IQ guys on those old Thunder teams, but that certainly does not fit where they are today. Like Barnes fits that better. He's high IQ. Giddey is like outrageous IQ. Have you watched Josh Giddey at all? Like you can watch him throw these cross court passes, like fling it with. I mean, he's ambidextrous. He's like an ambidextrous passer. Like it doesn't matter. He throws in the most like accurate left hand passes where he just puts it right in the shooter pocket. It's outrageous. It's so outrageous. And then like I don't know, man. There's just I think had they drawn number one, obviously it would have been very, very, very exciting. There wouldn't be a lot of intrigue as to what they were going to do. Like we're just prepping for Cade, right? And this is not a good problem to have. This is a bad problem to have. But now, like, it's a complete mystery as to what they're going to do. Because the thing is with Sam Presti is that anytime it looks like he's in this bind where you're like, what is he? I mean, the last time that I sat and thought, oh my gosh, what in the world is Sam going to do with this roster? He is screwed. I was on the phone with Brett Dawson the day of the Paul George trade, talking with him about how screwed the Thunder were because they were locked into Oladipo. How in the world are they going to get better? This team is going to be the 7th seed for eternity. And then literally like 6 hours later, they traded for Paul George. So anytime this Thunder team gets into a bind, he figures out a way. And I don't know what that way looks like. The way could be, hey, we love the guy at 6. And we don't really care. Or it could be they trade up. I don't know what it's going to be, but I just know that like he's not going to sit on his hands and be like, oh, drat. I guess we'll just have to just figure out what who falls to us or whatever.
The thing, this is why pick 5 would have been so nice, because I do feel I'd be surprised if one of the top 4 drop. Now, maybe it happens. Maybe Jalen Suggs dropped to 5 or whatever. But I'd be kind of surprised if one of those top 4 dropped. So Orlando has a lot of leverage. And I expect in the next couple of weeks that we will be seeing reports that Orlando is interested in pretty much anyone you would want the Thunder to take from 5 to 10. Because I think that would be the absolute smartest thing for them to do. Like, tell everyone you're interested in Barnes, Kuminga, all of those guys.
They could milk 2 first-rounders out of OKC.
Absolutely, they could. And if OKC has identified someone outside of that top 4 that they just think is like, this is the guy, then you kind of have to make that trade if the Magic do a good job of really doing some smoke screens. So I think they control so much of this draft. And it's great for them because they have pick 5 and 8.
And 8.
I mean, and they needed it. And the other thing about the Magic that is so interesting is that a lot of those guys in that range are not shooters. And we know what the current makeup of the Magic is. And while you would say that, well, obviously no one on this team is good enough for you to not take BPA. On the other hand, it's like kind of like the old Sixers thing where it's like, are you really going to add another center though? Like, yes, no one is good enough, but are you really going to do it? Because they got Fultz, RJ Hampton, Wendell Carter Jr., Jonathan Isaac. Like adding Kuminga or Scottie Barnes to that, like, I mean, that's maybe BPA, but what are you doing with that?
Like, what is the makeup of this roster look like? It's great for them to get 5 and 8. They're a little screwed over that they didn't at least, because I think that they're outside of the Jalen Suggs range. Like he would have been perfect to plug in there and just be like, hey, go run this team. Throw lobs to these guys. Please get us an offense of some sort. Like he could do all that. But now, like, you're looking at Kuminga. Everybody like, oh, like, gosh, like, I don't even know. Like, I can't even imagine a world where you can even develop Kuminga well enough on a team like that for it to make sense. Like it's just gross. It's kind of this gross spot to where like you have like their team is filled with fourth and fifth starters, and that's where the
Yeah.
Thunder, man, like it's just such a huge missed opportunity to have your own pick be higher in the draft, because like the Thunder have a number one guard already, and they have a great defender on the wing in Dort, and they have this like weird project in Poku. Like they have all the pieces there to add wherever you want. And if you just add like one high level talent, like you're so much more ready to compete than everybody else. Like you look like the Magic are starting at square one. And it's a shame that they couldn't get like a high level guy. And the Thunder are at square one to a degree as well. Like this draft is step one in the rebuild. And the fact that their starting point is SGA and Dort and Poku is like, that's pretty ridiculous. Like that's pretty crazy that is step one. But it also makes step one so much more important than Orlando's step one, because Orlando will be back in the lottery next year, and perhaps they develop whoever's there and they can add a star next year if they get lucky.
Though, if a potential trade, because we talked about Cleveland, let's say Cade and Mobley go 1-2, which that's what most people are projecting right now, but who knows?
Yeah.
At 3, they have the option of Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, so bringing in another guard. Or would the Magic be interested in 5 and 8 for 3? And then if you're the Cavs, you can still get a Kuminga at 5 and then pick up another guy at 8.
That makes 1,000% more sense than a deal with the Thunder.
Yeah.
Like it makes a lot of sense for them. And my guess is that the Magic would, if I'm the Magic, I would be all over that.
I would too. And I would be targeting Green.
Yeah. Yeah. I would not. I would be targeting, I would want Jalen Suggs. But either one would be much better than drafting Kuminga and Franz Wagner or something like that.
Now, Andrew, Tom Bystander in the chat said, I would throw up if we took Josh Hidden at 6. That might be his new nickname if he disappears in games. Josh Hidden.
He doesn't disappear in games. That dude is he's in the game. He's in it. You throw up. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've watched a bunch of him. I think he's super fun. I would be excited.
Did you see any of the combine stuff? Because there was some interesting stuff in there.
Yesterday was such a weird day for me. I have looked at very little of anything. Like I'm just now getting my bearings. I hadn't hardly looked at Twitter even after the draft, just because it was such a weird time. So I have not.
So one thing that's interesting, especially thinking about how the Thunder don't currently have a center on their team, no player measured 7 feet or taller.
That is weird, huh?
Yeah, this seems rare.
That is weird.
Nehemias Kuwaita. He was the tallest player.
What did Mobley measure at? Was he like 6'11" or something?
Oh, I didn't think Mobley was at the combine.
Oh, maybe he's not at the combine. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm so unplugged from all of that right now.
You need to plug back in, Andrew.
But I'm pretty sure he's 7 feet. I'm pretty sure Mobley would measure at 7 feet if he was at the combine.
He had. So this is from Chad Ford's website, NBABigBoard.com. So players who measure taller than expected. Zaire Williams. People thought that he was like 6'6", 6'7", and he measured 6'10" in shoes, which is interesting. The other one,
and also please measure everybody in shoes, because they're always going to be playing in shoes.
Well, who knows, Andrew? They're talking about some things on the rules committee. Jumping into players. Maybe they do away with shoes.
Tom Bystander's is it just a Josh Giddey hater over here? Campazzo and Teodosic could pass to. Get out of here, man. Get out of here, bro.
Maybe he has a point, Andrew. The other one, this one was the shocking one, and people think that it was a typo. Sharif Cooper from Auburn, right? Everyone thought that he was at best 6 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
And chances are he is not more than 6 feet tall, because we've seen pictures of him next to CP3 and next to Isaac Okoro, and he is almost shorter than Chris Paul. He came in and measured 6'3.5".
Wow.
which people think that James Bouknight's height was just copied over and they screwed up because he was like right above him in the list. But everyone was, I guess people are saying like, oh, if he's 6'3.5", like he's going to go way higher than he's currently projected.
Yeah.
Some players that were shorter, the shortest guy in the draft, remember him, Max Abmas. He's 5'10"
yeah.
and a half. Davion
Oklahoma
Mitchell.
guy.
Yeah. Davion Mitchell is 6 foot.
Woo, Davion! Oh no!
Yeah,
That's
and he
not
was
good.
listed at 6'2" at Baylor.
Yeah, I was gonna say like he was measured like 6'2", 6'3" is kind of what you think of him, but he's like certainly combo guard. He's a guy that we're gonna do here pretty quick.
And it's
McKellar
I mean
and
the Ringer has him going 7 to the Warriors, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, he's more win now because he's older. He's awesome though. I think he's pretty awesome.
So players with the most positive wingspan, so longest wingspans relative to their height, Moses Moody is plus 8.5 inches, and then Scottie Barnes is second at plus 7.75 inches. The ones with the worst wingspan, first of all, we have no negative wingspan guys, at least of who is measured.
Wow,
that's exciting. But Trey
is.
Mann is basically like even.
Yeah,
even Corey Kispert is plus 1.
Very predictable with Kispert. I actually thought he would be more of a negative guy.
I wonder, because you can kind of stretch out your arms like longer than you would normally do it. I wonder if there's some exercises these guys can do to kind of add an extra half inch or something.
Yeah, Corey Kispert's both his arms were out of socket for the measurements.
Yeah. That's all I would be doing before the combine is just trying to extend my limbs as much as possible.
Yeah. It does matter. It really does.
It does.
The measurements for Barnes matters like quite a bit. Plus 7.5 is sick. Plus 8.5 for Moses Moody is sick. Like, that's some sick measurements, bro.
Yeah.
That's meaningful. Just, and as a defender, I mean, it's not like Scottie Barnes is like a bad size. He's like the perfect size to defend. But the fact that he has that reach is significant, and it would not shock me if he went higher, especially if Kuminga dropped to like 6 or 7. Not surprised whatsoever. He is a petrifying prospect to me. He's got a really high ceiling. I would take the risk just because I believe in the developmental team with the Thunder. But if I'm any other team, I don't know that I'd touch that project.
Well, and you say like, what
scares me?
If he was there for the Thunder and they passed, like, are the Warriors really taking him?
Gosh, I would be so far in the no right now if I were a Warriors fan.
Yeah,
with Kuminga, I would just be like, the Warriors are trying to build a bridge from their championship team to the next iteration, like similar to what San Antonio did with Tim Duncan. The bridge is so far away if Kuminga is your next guy, right? That I don't know. Like, I don't like Steph Curry will be in a wheelchair by the time Kuminga's ready to go. I don't think so, man. I would be scared to do that. I could see Kuminga falling. If he's not taken at 5, I could see teams that are just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know that we want to take this on. If I'm the Thunder, I'd definitely take it on because he's got a crazy high ceiling. And I believe in the coaching staff to get him there.
Oh man. Where he's going to go if he falls? Number 9, Sacramento Kings.
Oh my gosh! Oh no, poor Jonathan Kuminga. Like, goodbye, Jonathan Kuminga. It was fun watching you on Synergy. Dude, that would be so bad. That would be so bad. The Ringer has them taking Barnes. Why did Barnes fall to 9? That's a whack mock draft. KOC.
Taller and bulkier MCW. That's how they describe Scottie Barnes.
That is pretty whack. Oh, he also has Siakam and Draymond Green. I don't know the Draymond Green thing. Like, he's just a switchy defender that can pass. And, like, maybe that's where the comp is. You know, he certainly doesn't shoot like he has a backpack on, though.
It seems like he plays with, like, a ton of passion as well. Like, he has that kind of
dude,
Draymond
he
thing.
would. Yeah, that's true. Draymond's a little bit more psycho than he is, but he is definitely like, if he's on the team, it will take 2 weeks for the Thunder announcers to say that he's the heart and soul of this Oklahoma City Thunder basketball team.
Wow. Replacing Dort.
Absolutely. Because the thing is that he's so vocal about it. Like, he will be screaming, he will be telling guys where to go, he will do all of that. And he will make winning plays. Like, he'll be diving on the floor, he'll dunk on guys. Like, that is the heart and soul of the, I can see him dunking in transition after a crazy steal. The Thunder go up to beat the Sixers or something. Like, that is the heart and soul of the Oklahoma City Thunder basketball team right there.
That's a good Chris Fisher impression.
How do you impersonate Chris Fisher? That is the heart and soul of the Oklahoma City Thunder basketball team. Yeah, I don't know who I was impersonating when I did that.
Scottie Barnes.
Scottie Barnes is
well, and that'd be cool because, as much as we like a lot of the players on the Thunder right now, we don't really have like a crazy guy yet, like a guy who has is just hard on his sleeve, like yelling, going nuts all the time.
Dude, you would love him. And I think like Shea and Dort would love him too. He's like the ultimate teammate. He is the ultimate defender. Like, if you were to build a defender out of, to me, he's probably the best defender of anybody in that top 5. And that's great. Like, you need to have guys that can get stops. And if you already have a guy in Shea that can go get you a bucket, they need another guy that can get a bucket, man. They need another guy that can go score it. Like, they need that badly. And the good thing about him is that he's not a sieve on the offensive end. And I think there's a chance he figures it out. I wouldn't count on it, but he can at least pass it. He's not Robertson, where Robertson is like absolutely nothing. Like, he can't do anything. Barnes can drive, he can pass, he can finish at the bucket. Like, he can do those things.
Yeah, he's good in transition.
Like, he's super fun. And if that's the only thing the Thunder walk away from the draft with, like, you can't be like.
So you're saying they give away picks 16 and 18. They just come away with Scottie Barnes.
They forget to take 16 and 18. No thanks. No thanks. No, it is not the word. Like, honestly, if they had 7 and like you were just like no chance of Barnes, and now we're like having to discuss, like, are the Thunder really going to take Sengun at 7? Are the Thunder? I mean, that discussion it's unfortunately like a lot more depressing than 6, because you can really talk yourself into Barnes as like the next member of the top 6. But if you're talking Keon Johnson, Franz Wagner, Corey Kispert, Jalen Johnson, Sengun, Giddey, Moses Moody, you're just like, oh, son of a gun, man. Like, that is a way more depressing conversation to me. And maybe this is me manufacturing sunshine myself, but it just feels that way to me.
And we haven't even talked about pick 16 and 18. Maybe we'll just save those for another week, because to be honest, right now the Ringer has Moses Moody at 15.
Yeah.
So like the Ringer has taking Kai Jones and Usman Garuba.
Yeah, let me look who Sam Facini has, because I like just went to 6 and he's got Barnes there. I spoke with Sam last night. I mentioned the podcast. I spoke to him about Barnes. I was like, "Do you really love him that much?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, he's perfect. He's perfect for the Thunder. He loves the fit there." So he has the Thunder taking Kai Jones at 16. There's your Moses Brown replacement, everybody. 6'11", 19-year-old shot blocker, high upside, low floor. Like scare the crap out of me, big guy. And then at 18, Cam Thomas out of LSU, 18-year-old freshman guard.
Who also happens to be someone who backed out of the combine and people think has a promise.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, he is interesting because he is he's a bucket getter. Like he's one of the guys in the teens that you would want to go get buckets. Like he's that kind of guy. Now he's smaller. He's 6'3". He's not Davion Mitchell size, but he's smaller. He's a combo guard. So he's I don't know if he's high upside, but he's like when you think of a six man, that's him. That's what Cam Thomas is, like your natural, like come off the bench and go get you 25, like that's what he does. So, which is a spot they need to fill. They don't have that at all right now.
Yeah.
So if you walked away with Barnes, Kai Jones as your project big, and then Cam Thomas, if that's like, all right, like that's something to work with. Is that taking you to a title? It doesn't feel like it.
But honestly,
it's a step forward.
That might take you back to the lottery.
Like if
they really take three guys, especially like projects like that, and they're playing them all big minutes, like that team will be worse.
Exactly. And the 2022 class is nice. It's super nice. And yeah, maybe if the Thunder just are like, hey, we're going to play as many of these young guys as possible. Hopefully they can offload Kemba before the season starts. For who even cares if you get value? I don't care. I'm sure Sam cares because he always cares about getting value out of that. But if you just play young guys, I mean, it will take you back to the lottery without a doubt. And maybe teams will be more prepared for SGA next year and like what he's capable of.
Yeah.
And they'll make other guys, prove it. And maybe Dort will have a worse shooting year, because like he had a great, for what he's been, he had a great shooting year.
Man, I the more I thought about it, the Kemba to the Knicks thing, it really makes sense to me because all it takes is for them missing out on like Kyle Lowry and Mike Conley, which who even knows if they would want Mike Conley, but like they clearly need a lead guard. Like I don't know if they, as good as Derrick Rose was this season, I don't think you necessarily want to go into next season with just Derrick Rose and quickly.
Yeah.
And if they have the cap space where they could just absorb the contract. It's similar to the Horford deal where it's like, it makes too much sense. And the other part of it is like from the Knicks side of things, they're trying to keep this train rolling because this was like such a magical season making it to the playoffs.
Oh my gosh. And Kemba is like a guy that should be in the Garden,
Yes,
like
absolutely.
Like
and from their perspective, it's only 2 more years. Like, who cares? Like, you can reset everything after those 2 years.
You got the cap space anyways.
Yeah,
you're gonna use it on something dumb anyways. Just go use it on Kemba.
Look at Kemba. I don't even care what you give us. Whatever.
I don't care either. I really don't. I just don't want to be.
Let's bring up Kevin Knox again.
Give me more of the guys from that Kentucky team. We haven't had enough. Okay, we got to go. I've got to go. I've got to go do some more talk on this draft. Well, let's go to the stream before we go. Hoops Talk 69 says we're chucking for Chet. Tommaso Ferro says that Book Knight is that kind of player too, like a guy that can go get a bucket. Absolutely. Like you're looking for a guy that can get buckets, that's him. Stay Jamaica says Barnes is going to go 5. Mad Monk says we will trade down for Sengun. Book it. It feels very thundery to do that. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Let's see who else is in the stream. Colin good time. He says Barnes at 6, move up to 16 to get Williams, and Jackson at 18 would be awesome draft for me. Positive thinker. Good job. Let's see who else is here. Tom Bystander, who's like a big hater. Penny says that Giddy scares her. Why, he's such a nice young man. He shouldn't be scaring you. I would love small ball lineup all year from Brendan Marshall. Let's see. Eric Hoffman wants to trade up. Me too, Eric. That would be great. Jordan's having a bad morning. What an absolute letdown.
Andrew, I want to tell you, I had something prepared for Deborah Bucket's basketball hour if we had gotten the Houston pick that was going to be so good. And I'm not going to reveal it because we still have a chance to swap their picks in the future, so I could potentially use it again. But
save it. It's very sad. It's very, very sad. The diabetic says, how do you feel about Kai Jones? Scared. That's how I feel. The diabetic is also down for Moody. Let's see. Yeah, thanks for joining, guys. Really appreciate you guys joining in on the stream. Thanks again to everybody that joined in last night and came to the draft party. If I didn't get to say hello to you, I apologize for that. Send me a DM if you want. But it's life will go on, Thunder fans. This is not the end of anything. This is the beginning of something, and this is where the Thunder have to go to work. There will be an all-star in the 6 to 12 range. Got to go find him, Sam. Go find him or trade up, but you got to go find him. This is where the hard work is done, and we've seen it before with other franchises that they've been able to, get guys in that range, and it changes what they do. And this is OKC's chance. It's not an obvious chance, but this is their chance. So thanks so much for listening. Be sure to follow Alex on Twitter at AlBabyCakes. You can follow me on Twitter at Andrew K. Schlecht. We're thankful. We appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you guys again on Friday.